March 23, 1966. Bien Hoa Province, South Vietnam. 03:47 hours. The rubber plantation sleeps under a moonless sky, its ordered rows of trees stretching into darkness like the columns of some vast, silent cathedral. Between the trunks, nothing moves. The air hangs thick and wet, carrying the smell of latex and rotting vegetation. Somewhere in the canopy, a nightbird calls once, then falls silent. Trooper Kevin Jock McCarthy lies motionless in the leaf litter, his face painted black and green, his SLR rifle pressed against his shoulder. He has not moved for 47 minutes. The only signs of life are the slow rise and fall of his chest and the occasional blink of his eyes as he watches the trail 15 meters ahead. Beside him, equally still, are three other men, Corporal Brian Spider Webb, Trooper David Tomo Thompson, and their patrol commander, Lieutenant Michael Mick Martin. They are soldiers of the Australian Special Air Service Regiment, and they are hunting. The trail shows fresh use, boot prints in the damp earth, broken twigs at shoulder height, a discarded cigarette butt, American brand, probably looted from a supply convoy. The signs are less than 2 hours old. Somewhere ahead, moving through this plantation, is a Viet Cong patrol, perhaps 6 men, perhaps 12. The SAS patrol has been tracking them since dusk, moving like smoke through the rubber trees, closing the distance one careful step at a time. Martin's hand moves, barely visible in the darkness. 2 fingers extended, then a closed fist. The signal passes down the line without sound. 2 enemy approaching. Freeze. The first VC fighter appears like a shadow detaching itself from other shadows. He moves with the confidence of someone who knows this ground, his AK-47 held casually across his chest. He is young, perhaps 19 or 20, wearing the black pajamas and faded green NVA cap that mark him as main force Viet Cong, not local militia. Behind him, separated by 10 meters, comes a second fighter, older, moving with the careful economy of a veteran. They pass within 8 meters of McCarthy's position. He can hear the younger one breathing, can smell the fish sauce and tobacco on their clothes. The VC fighters are relaxed, talking in low voices, their weapons slung. They do not know that 4 pairs of eyes are tracking their every movement, that 4 fingers rest lightly on 4 triggers, that death is measuring their stride and calculating range and windage. The VC patrol moves on, their voices fade into the rubber trees. Martin's hand signals again. Wait. The patrol remains frozen. This is the discipline that separates the SAS from other units, the patience that has been drilled into them through months of selection and training. Wait for the main group. Wait for the optimal moment. Let the enemy commit. 5 minutes pass, 10. Then, like ghosts materializing from the darkness, they come. 8 more VC fighters moving in a loose column, weapons ready now, spread at tactical intervals. These are experienced soldiers, their movements coordinated, their spacing professional. In the center of the formation walks a man in his 40s, no weapon visible, carrying only a canvas satchel. An officer or political cadre, Martin thinks. High-value target. The lead VC fighter is now 10 meters past Martin's position. The officer is approaching the kill zone, the invisible box of earth where all 4 SAS rifles can bring concentrated fire to bear. Martin's breathing slows. His finger takes up the slack on his trigger. Spiderweb, to his left, has centered his sights on the officer. McCarthy has the trail man. Thompson covers the right flank. The officer steps into the kill zone. Martin's trigger breaks with a sound like a twig snapping. The suppressed SLR coughs once, a flat crack that barely carries 30 meters. The officer crumples. In the same instant, 3 other rifles fire. Their muzzle flashes brief yellow strobes in the darkness. The disciplined VC formation dissolves into chaos. Men dive for cover, shouting warnings, firing wildly at shadows. But the SAS patrol has already shifted position, melting back into the rubber trees, their muzzle flashes invisible behind carefully positioned cover. The firefight lasts 43 seconds. When it ends, 5 VC fighters lie dead or dying on the trail. The survivors have fled in 2 directions, their discipline broken, their night ruined. The SAS patrol waits in silence for 5 more minutes, listening to the sounds of panicked retreat fading into the plantation. Only when Martin is certain no reinforcements are coming does he signal the withdrawal. They move in tactical bounds, covering each other's movement, weapons trained on the darkness behind them. Within 20 minutes, they have put 800 meters between themselves and the ambush site. They will move another 2 kilometers before first light, then hide up in dense cover to rest and observe. Tomorrow night, they will move again. And the night after that, they are patient. They are relentless. They are the ghosts that the Viet Cong will learn to fear more than artillery, more than airstrikes, more than the massive American sweeps that thunder through the jungle with thousands of men. The rubber plantation returns to silence. In the morning, a VC recovery team will find their dead in the officer's satchel, which contains detailed maps of supply routes and the locations of 3 base camps. But they will find no trace of the men who killed them. No shell casings, no boot prints, no sign that anyone was ever there at all. The Americans, when they hear about this patrol, will be skeptical. 4 men against 10? In the enemy's backyard? With those results? It sounds like propaganda, like the kind of exaggerated body counts that higher headquarters loves to inflate for the press. But in the VC base camps scattered through Phuoc Tuy province, the word is already spreading. There are new hunters in the jungle, silent ones, deadly ones, ghosts who strike without warning and vanish without trace. The Viet Cong have been fighting foreign soldiers for 20 years. They defeated the French at Dien Bien Phu. They have learned to survive American firepower through tunnels, patience, and intimate knowledge of their home terrain. But this is something different. This is their own tactics turned against them. This is fear. February 1966, Nui Dat Bus, Phuoc Tuy province, 3 weeks before the rubber plantation ambush. Major John Murphy stands before a wall-sized map of Phuoc Tuy province, his finger tracing the green expanse of jungle that dominates the terrain. Around the operations tent, 24 SAS troopers sit on folding chairs, notebooks open, studying the map with the focused attention of students before a crucial exam. These men have just arrived in Vietnam with the first deployment of the Australian SAS squadron, and they are about to receive an education that most American units will never understand. Gentlemen, Murphy begins, his voice carrying the clipped accent of a career soldier. Forget everything you think you know about conventional warfare. Forget fire superiority. Forget holding ground. Forget large unit operations. He taps the map. Out there, you are prey. The Viet Cong own this jungle. They were born in it. They've fought in it for 2 decades, and they know every trail, every stream, every hiding place. They can move through terrain that would stop a battalion, and they can disappear faster than you can call for artillery support. He pauses, letting this sink in. Among the Americans stationed at nearby bases, there is supreme confidence in firepower and mobility. The prevailing doctrine is search and destroy, send large formations into suspected enemy territory, make contact, fix the enemy in place with infantry, then obliterate them with artillery and air power. American commanders speak confidently of attrition rates and kill ratios, of winning through industrial might and technological superiority. Murphy has seen this approach before, in a different jungle, and he knows it will fail. Most of you are too young to remember Malaya, he continues, but that's where we learned how to beat an insurgency. 1948 to 1960, 12 years of counterinsurgency against communist guerrillas in jungle that makes this look like a park. The Malayan Communist Party had everything going for them: local support, perfect terrain, experienced fighters, external backing from China. They should have won. He pulls down a second map, this one showing the Malay Peninsula. The British started out like the Americans are starting here, big sweeps, lots of firepower, burning villages, relocated populations, and for the first 4 years, we were losing. The communists were growing stronger, recruiting faster, controlling more territory. Then we changed everything. Lieutenant Michael Martin, who will lead the patrol into the rubber plantation 3 weeks from now, leans forward. He has read the after-action reports from Malaya, studied the tactics that emerged from that jungle laboratory. He knows what's coming, but hearing it from Murphy, who spent 3 years in Malayan operations, gives it a different weight. Small patrols, Murphy says. 4 men, occasionally 5. No more. You go in light, you move silent, you live in the enemy's backyard for weeks at a time. You don't announce your presence. You don't call in airstrikes on every suspected position. You watch. You learn. You map their routes, identify their camps, track their movements. And when the moment is perfect, when you have the advantage of surprise, position, and firepower, you strike once hard and vanish. He walks to a footlocker and pulls out a captured weapon, a British Sten gun with communist markings. This belonged to a guerrilla leader named Ah Hoi. They called him the Ghost of Kajang because he could hit a patrol and disappear before reinforcements arrived. For 2 years, he killed 47 British and Malay soldiers, made fools of entire battalions. Murphy sets the weapon on the table. An SAS 4-man patrol tracked him for 19 days through jungle so thick you couldn't see 10 meters. They learned his habits, his routes, his hideouts. On day 20, they ambushed him at dawn while he was washing in a stream. 3 rounds, center mass. War over for Ahoy. The tent is silent except for the whir of electric fans fighting the afternoon heat. Outside, a Huey passes overhead, its rotor wash shaking the canvas. That sound, American helicopters, is the signature of the Vietnam War, the tool that gives U.S. forces unprecedented mobility. The Americans can insert a company anywhere in the province within an hour. They can evacuate casualties in minutes. They can rain down fire support with devastating precision. The Yanks think helicopters are the answer to everything, Murphy says, as if reading their thoughts. And they're brilliant for American operations, but we're not running American operations. Every time a Huey flies over enemy territory, every VC in 5 clicks knows you're coming. They hear the insertion, they watch the landing zone, they wait for you to walk into an ambush, or they simply vanish. You'll spend 3 days tramping through the bush, finding nothing but cold camps and empty trails. He returns to the map of Puak Tui. We insert on foot at night from secured areas. We move 3 kilometers per day, sometimes less. We rest during the day in carefully chosen hides where we can observe without being seen. We carry everything on our backs, 7 days of rations minimum, ammunition, water, medical supplies, no resupply, no radio chatter except emergencies. The enemy must never know we're there until we want them to know. Corporal Brian Webb, who will earn the nickname Spider for his ability to move silently through dense undergrowth, raises his hand. What about extraction, sir, if we're hit hard? You walk out, Murphy says flatly. Same way you came in. If you're compromised and need emergency extraction, you've already failed. The mission isn't to fight fair. It's to kill the enemy without him ever knowing you were there. He lets that sink in. In Malaya, properly executed SAS patrols had a contact rate of less than 5%. The other 95% of patrols gathered intelligence, mapped enemy movements, and called in strikes on camps and supply routes. When we did make contact, it was on our terms, our timing, our choice of ground. He pulls out a stack of photographs, grainy black and white images of dead guerrillas in jungle clearings, captured supplies, destroyed camps. Over 12 years in Malaya, the SAS killed or captured over 500 communist fighters while suffering fewer than a dozen casualties. More importantly, we broke their will. They couldn't move without being watched. They couldn't meet without being ambushed. They couldn't resupply without losing their porters. We made the jungle, their greatest advantage, into a prison. Murphy's finger stabs at the Vietnam map. That's what we're going to do here. The VC think this jungle belongs to them. They think they're invisible. They think they can move freely, strike at will, and disappear into terrain where conventional forces can't follow. His smile is cold. We're going to teach them they're wrong. We're going to be quieter than them, more patient than them, more deadly than them. We're going to make them fear their own backyard. Outside the tent, an American convoy rumbles past, M113 armored personnel carriers, trucks loaded with troops, the heavy machinery of conventional warfare. The Americans are good soldiers, brave and well-equipped, but they are fighting the wrong war with the wrong tactics. They announce their presence with artillery barrages and B-52 strikes. They measure success in body counts and territory controlled. They think firepower is the answer to insurgency. The SAS learned differently in Malaya. They learned that in counterinsurgency, the guerrilla has 3 advantages: knowledge of terrain, local support, and the ability to choose when and where to fight. Take away those advantages and the guerrilla becomes prey instead of hunter. One more thing, Murphy says as the briefing concludes. The Viet Cong are experienced, dedicated fighters. They've beaten the French. They're holding their own against everything the Americans can throw at them. Respect that. But remember, they've never faced anyone who can beat them at their own game. They've never been hunted by soldiers who can move quieter, hide better, and strike harder than they can. That's about to change. 3 weeks later, Lieutenant Martin's patrol will prove Murphy right in that rubber plantation. It will be the first of hundreds of such patrols, silent, deadly, and psychologically devastating. The Americans will continue their search and destroy operations, their massive sweeps, their reliance on firepower. And they will achieve mixed results, losing ground slowly, watching enemy forces disperse and regroup endlessly. But in Phuoc Tuy Province, in the Australian Tactical Area of Responsibility, something different is happening. The VC are learning to fear the darkness. They are learning that the jungle is no longer safe. They are learning that somewhere in the green shadows, patient men with painted faces are watching, waiting, calculating the perfect moment to strike. The Ghost War has begun. January 8th, 1966. Cu Chi District, northwest of Saigon, 2 months before the SAS deployment to Phuoc Tuy. The sun has barely cleared the horizon when the first wave of helicopters descends on the landing zone, 60 UH-1 Hueys in tight formation, their rotor wash flattening the elephant grass and sending red dust swirling into the morning air. Operation Crimp is the largest American operation in the war so far. 8,000 troops from the 173rd Airborne Brigade and the 1st Infantry Division, supported by Australian infantry from the 1st Battalion, Royal Australian Regiment, and a single troop of 28 SAS soldiers serving as advisors and forward reconnaissance. The objective is simple: surround and destroy the Viet Cong's Military Region 4 headquarters, believed to be hidden somewhere in the Hobo Woods near Cu Chi. Intelligence suggests the area contains supply depots, training camps, and the command structure for VC operations around Saigon. The American plan follows the familiar pattern: massive helicopter insertion, aggressive movement to contact, overwhelming firepower to destroy any resistance. Sergeant David Jock Sutton of the British SAS, on loan to the Australians as an advisor, watches the insertion from a tree line 800 meters away. He has been in position since 3 hours before dawn, having infiltrated on foot with his patrol the previous night. Now, as wave after wave of helicopters thunder overhead and American troops fan out across the landing zones, he shakes his head slowly. "They've just announced to every VC in 10 kilometers that something big is happening," he murmurs to the Australian trooper beside him. "The element of surprise died about 5 minutes ago." He's right. By the time the last helicopter departs and the ground operation begins, the VC headquarters staff has already evacuated through tunnels that stretch for kilometers underground. Supply caches have been moved. Documents have been burned or hidden. The only enemy forces remaining are delaying elements, small teams tasked with slowing the American advance while the main force escapes. For 3 days, Operation Crimp grinds forward through the Hobo Woods. Contact is sporadic and frustrating. A sniper fires 3 rounds and disappears. A small ambush kills 2 Americans and melts away before artillery can respond. Search teams find abandoned camps, cold cooking fires, and empty bunkers. The Viet Cong are ghosts, present and absent at the same time. On the 3rd day, January 11th, Sergeant Sutton's patrol makes a discovery that will change everything. They are moving through dense secondary jungle when Trooper Bob Botel, the patrol scout, freezes. His hand goes up in the universal signal for halt. The 4-man patrol drops into cover, weapons trained on the surrounding vegetation. Sutton moves forward silently, his L1A1 rifle tracking potential threats. Botel points down. At first, Sutton sees nothing, just jungle floor covered in leaves and vines. Then his eyes adjust and he sees it, a slight depression in the earth, rectangular, about 60 centimeters across. The vegetation around it looks natural, but is actually woven camouflage placed with extraordinary care. He has seen this before, in Malaya. A tunnel entrance. Sutton signals the patrol to establish a defensive perimeter, then carefully removes the camouflage. Beneath is a wooden trapdoor, expertly crafted to blend with the forest floor when closed. He lifts it slowly, his pistol ready. Below is darkness and a smell of earth and something else. Food, smoke, human habitation. "Tunnel," he whispers into his radio. Grid reference 647823. Requesting engineer support. Within an hour, an American engineer team arrives with metal detectors and explosives ready to collapse the tunnel and move on. This is standard procedure. Find it, blow it, continue the sweep. But Sutton stops them. "Someone needs to go down," he says. "This isn't just a fighting position. This is something bigger." The American lieutenant in charge of the engineer team looks at the dark hole skeptically. "Sarge, we don't know how deep that goes or what's down there. Could be booby-trapped. Could have VC waiting. Protocol is to demo it and move on." Sutton is already stripping off his webbing, removing everything but his pistol and a torch. "In Malaya, we learned that intelligence is worth more than destruction. Whatever's down there could tell us how they're moving, where they're hiding, how they're surviving our operations." He looks at the young lieutenant. "This is what's been frustrating your operations for months. You need to know what you're up against." Before anyone can object, Sutton lowers himself into the hole. The tunnel is barely wide enough for his shoulders. He has to descend backwards, feet first, feeling for purchase on earthen steps cut into the wall. The torch beam shows a vertical shaft dropping 3 meters, then a horizontal passage branching off into darkness. The air is stale but breathable, surprisingly cool after the surface heat. At the bottom of the shaft, Sutton finds himself in a passage roughly 70 centimeters high and 60 wide, too small to stand, barely large enough to crawl. The walls are hard-packed clay, reinforced in places with bamboo supports. The workmanship is extraordinary. This isn't a crude foxhole or temporary shelter. This is architecture, engineering, a permanent structure built with skill and purpose. He begins to crawl forward, pistol in his left hand, torch in his right. Every few meters he stops to listen. The silence is absolute, pressing against his eardrums like water pressure. The tunnel curves gently to the right, descending slightly. After 10 meters, it branches. Left or right? He chooses left. The passage opens into a chamber about 2 meters square and high enough to crouch. His torch beam reveals ammunition crates stacked against one wall, American M16 rounds, grenades, mortar shells. Against another wall are bags of rice and dried fish, medical supplies in a wooden box, and on a crude bamboo shelf a stack of documents and maps. Sutton's pulse quickens. This is an intelligence gold mine. He's about to radio the surface when he hears it, a sound behind him back in the tunnel, a scraping, movement. He spins, pistol raised, torch beam stabbing into the darkness. The passage is empty, but someone or something is down here with him. He can feel it now, a presence in the dark, watching, waiting. "British SAS," he calls out in Vietnamese, his voice echoing strangely in the confined space. "The area above is secured. You have no escape. Come forward with hands visible." Silence. Then, from somewhere ahead in the unexplored sections of tunnel, a voice responds in accented English. "You are in our home, soldier. You are the one with no escape." A chill runs down Sutton's spine. The voice is calm, almost amused. Whoever is speaking is not afraid, and suddenly Sutton realizes the tactical situation has reversed. On the surface, he is a trained soldier with backup, firepower, and all the advantages of modern warfare. Down here, in this dark warren of tunnels, he is alone and vulnerable. The VC fighter can move through these passages in complete darkness. He knows every turn, every chamber, every hiding place. He probably has weapons cached at strategic points, and there may be more than one of them. Sutton begins backing toward the entrance shaft, moving carefully, his pistol trained on the darkness ahead. He collects the documents from the chamber as he passes, stuffing them into his shirt. The return journey takes forever. Every sound could be an enemy approaching, every shadow could hide a fighter with a knife or pistol. His torch beam seems pitifully weak against the pressing dark. When he finally reaches the entrance shaft and climbs back into the blinding sunlight, he is drenched in sweat despite the cool underground air. The American engineers stare at him, taking in his expression, the dirt covering his uniform, the documents clutched in his hand. "There's a city down there," Sutton says quietly. "Not a tunnel. A city. Chambers, storage rooms, passages going in multiple directions. And there are VCs still using it, living in it. They're not running from our operations, they're just going underground and waiting for us to pass." Over the next 2 weeks, engineer teams with better equipment will explore the Q-Chai tunnels and discover that Sutton drastically underestimated the scope. The tunnel system extends for over 200 kilometers with multiple levels, living quarters, hospitals, kitchens, storage depots, and command centers all hidden beneath ground that American forces patrol daily. Some tunnels are 3 levels deep, descending more than 10 meters underground, deep enough to survive B-52 strikes. The Viet Cong haven't been evacuating during operations. They've been hiding literally beneath the Americans' feet, then emerging after the sweeps pass. The documents Sutton recovered include detailed maps of the tunnel system, patrol schedules for American units, and supply routes. More importantly, they reveal the psychological dimension of tunnel warfare. The Viet Cong feel safe underground. The tunnels are their sanctuary, their fortress, the physical embodiment of their ability to resist American power. As long as the tunnels exist, the VC can survive any operation, wait out any offensive, and return to fighting when conditions favor them. The American High Command responds by creating tunnel rat units, volunteers who will enter the tunnels armed only with pistols and flashlights to clear them chamber by chamber. It is some of the most dangerous work in the war, claustrophobic combat in pitch darkness against an enemy with every advantage. Many tunnel rats are killed by booby traps, cave-ins, or close quarters fighting in spaces too small to maneuver. But the real lesson of Cu Chi is learned by the SAS advisors, Sutton among them. The Viet Cong's greatest strength is not their fighting ability or their weapons. It is their mastery of terrain, their ability to make the environment itself a weapon. They use tunnels to neutralize American firepower. They use jungle to negate American mobility. They use darkness, patience, and intimate local knowledge to offset massive technological disadvantage. The only way to defeat this advantage is to become better at their own game. Move quieter, hide better, use the terrain more skillfully, develop patience that exceeds theirs. Attack when and where they feel safest, destroying not just their bodies but their confidence, their sense of sanctuary, their psychological certainty that the jungle is their domain. When the Australian SAS deploys to Phuoc Tuy province 2 months later, they bring this understanding with them. They know that firepower and technology will not win this war. They know that large unit operations will drive the VC underground or into Cambodia, where they'll wait out the storm and return. They know that the only effective counter to guerrilla warfare is better guerrilla warfare. Smaller teams, longer patrols, more skilled infiltration, more devastating ambushes. The tunnels of Cu Chi remain a VC stronghold throughout the war. But in Phuoc Tuy, where the SAS operates, something different happens. The Viet Cong there learn that the jungle is no longer safe. They learn that tunnels and thick vegetation and darkness are not enough. They learn that there are soldiers who can move through their territory unseen, strike without warning, and vanish as completely as they themselves once did. They learn to fear the ghosts. November 1967, Phuoc Tuy Province, 18 months into SAS operations. Captain Harry Tiger Smith kneels beside a stream in the dense jungle of the long, high hills, studying the muddy bank with the intensity of a forensic scientist examining evidence. His patrol has been in the field for 9 days, moving 3 kilometers per day through some of the most hostile territory in South Vietnam. They have not fired a shot, made radio contact except for scheduled check-ins, or revealed their presence in any way. But they have been busy. The boot prints in the mud tell a story. 12 men moving north carrying heavy loads judging by the depth of the impressions. The tracks are 6 hours old. The edges are still sharp and the water seepage indicates they were made after the pre-dawn rainfall. Smith's eyes follow the trail upstream, calculating. The VC patrol is moving toward a suspected base camp in the hills, probably a supply run returning from the coast. Smith signals his patrol into ambush positions along the stream. They move like shadows, each man finding cover that provides both concealment and clear fields of fire. Trooper Peter Gall takes the high ground with the M60 machine gun. Corporal Rick James covers the back trail with his L1A1. Trooper Michael Mick Deek positions himself across the stream for enfilade fire. Smith himself settles behind a fallen log, his rifle sights centered on the kill zone where the trail crosses the stream. Then they wait. 1 hour becomes 2. 2 becomes 4. The sun climbs, turning the jungle into a steam bath. Insects swarm. Leeches find exposed skin. The men remain motionless, breathing slowly, ignoring discomfort that would break less disciplined soldiers. This is the SAS advantage, not superior weapons or equipment, but superior patience and willpower. At 13:47 hours, the VC patrol appears. They are moving cautiously now, weapons ready, spread at tactical intervals. These are not local militia or impressed farmers. These are D445 Provincial Battalion fighters, experienced soldiers in clean uniforms with proper webbing and well-maintained AKs. The point man stops at the stream, kneels to fill his canteen, scans the jungle. He looks directly at Smith's position but sees nothing, just logs and vegetation and shadows. The VC commander waves the patrol forward. They begin crossing the stream one at a time, maintaining spacing, covering each other's movement. Professional, disciplined, experienced, it doesn't matter. Smith's rifle cracks. The VC commander drops. In the same instant, 3 other rifles open fire with precise, aimed shots. The M60 rakes the trail, its heavy rounds tearing through cover and flesh alike. The ambush lasts 17 seconds. When it ends, 9 VC fighters are dead or dying. 3 have fled into the jungle, wounded, leaving blood trails. The SAS patrol does not pursue. Instead, they conduct a rapid search of the bodies, collecting documents, maps, and photographs. 1 dead fighter carries a notebook filled with detailed observations, American patrol patterns, helicopter flight paths, times when different sections of road are vulnerable to ambush. It is the kind of intelligence that the VC have been collecting on coalition forces for years. Smith opens the notebook to the last entry and, using a marker from his webbing, writes a message in careful Vietnamese. "We see you. We know your movements. The jungle is ours now." The phantoms. He leaves the notebook on the commander's chest, positioned where the recovery team will find it immediately. Then the patrol vanishes into the jungle, moving fast, putting distance between themselves and the ambush site before reinforcements arrive. This is psychological warfare refined to an art form. The SAS has learned that in counterinsurgency, the goal is not just to kill the enemy, it's to break his will, destroy his confidence, make him question his own competence and safety. Every ambush is crafted to maximize psychological impact. Bodies are left in positions that suggest the attackers knew exactly where each target would be. Personal items are moved slightly, proving the phantoms rifled through pockets and packs. Messages are left in Vietnamese, demonstrating cultural understanding and suggesting infiltration. The effect on VC morale is devastating. In November 1967, a captured document from D445 Battalion headquarters includes this assessment. The enemy phantoms operate with capabilities we cannot counter. They move through our territory without detection. They ambush our patrols despite our precautions. They vanish before reinforcements arrive. Cadres report that fighters are becoming reluctant to patrol at night. Some refuse orders, claiming the jungle is haunted by spirits who can see in darkness and kill without sound. The document goes on to recommend avoiding certain areas entirely, traveling only in large groups, and limiting night movement, all tactics that severely restrict VC operations and make them more vulnerable to conventional forces. By early 1968, the SAS has perfected an operational cycle that maximizes both physical and psychological impact. 4-man patrols spend 21 days in the field, covering 60-80 kilometers, conducting surveillance on VC base camps and supply routes. They call in airstrikes on high-value targets, set ambushes on resupply trails, and gather intelligence through patient observation. Most importantly, they maintain an almost supernatural level of operational security. VC forces never see them coming, never track them afterward, never predict where they'll strike next. The statistics are extraordinary. From 1966 to 1971, approximately 600 SAS soldiers rotate through Vietnam. They conduct over 1,200 patrols. They inflict over 500 confirmed enemy casualties and capture dozens of prisoners. Their own losses: 3 killed in action, 33 wounded. The kill ratio defies conventional military logic, more than 150 to 1. But numbers don't capture the full impact. The SAS forces the VC to change their behavior, restrict their movements, abandon safe havens. Intelligence collected from SAS patrols leads to the destruction of numerous base camps and supply caches. More importantly, VC units operating in Puoc Toi become progressively less effective as they adopt defensive postures, avoid contact, and lose the initiative. During the Tet Offensive of January 1968, while VC forces across South Vietnam launch coordinated attacks on cities and military bases, The offensive in Phuoc Tuy is notably weaker and less sustained. The D445 Battalion, once considered an elite VC unit, attacks Baria City but retreats after token resistance, unwilling to commit to prolonged combat in the SAS's operational area. Captain Bob Buick, an SAS squadron commander, later writes in his after-action report, "The enemy in our area has been beaten psychologically before he's beaten physically. He knows we're out there, but he doesn't know where. He knows we can see him, but he can't see us. He knows we'll hit him when he's most vulnerable, but he doesn't know when or where. This uncertainty has made him cautious, defensive, and ultimately ineffective." The Americans, fighting with different tactics in other provinces, achieve different results. Their large operations kill thousands of VC fighters but don't break VC will or capability. The enemy simply retreats, regroups, and returns. Body counts are high, but territorial control remains contested. The war grinds on year after year with no clear path to victory. In Phuoc Tuy, something different happens. By 1970, VC main force units largely avoid the province. Local recruitment drops dramatically. Ambushes on coalition forces become rare. The area, once considered a VC stronghold, becomes one of the most secure provinces in South Vietnam, not because it's flooded with troops or secured by massive fortifications, but because a few hundred elite soldiers have made the enemy afraid to operate there. The lessons learned in Vietnam become foundational for modern special operations doctrine. Small team operations, extended patrols with minimal support, emphasis on stealth and observation over firepower, psychological operations integrated with combat operations. These principles, refined by the SAS in Malayan jungles and perfected in Vietnam, now guide special forces worldwide. Lieutenant General Sir Peter Cosgrove, who served as a platoon commander in Vietnam and later became chief of the Australian Defence Force, reflects on the SAS legacy. They proved that in irregular warfare, quality matters more than quantity, that patience is a weapon, that the ability to move unseen and strike without warning creates fear that lasts long after the bullets stop flying. The Viet Cong were brave, experienced fighters who defeated armies, but they'd never faced soldiers who could beat them at their own game, in their own terrain, with their own tactics turned against them. In the long high hills where Captain Smith's patrol ambushed the VC supply column, the jungle has reclaimed the trails. The war ended 50 years ago. The fighters on both sides are old men now, or dead. But the lessons remain, studied in military academies and special forces training centers around the world. The Australian SAS proved that even the most experienced guerrilla force has a breaking point. That psychological dominance matters more than firepower, that a few skilled soldiers properly trained and employed can achieve effects far beyond their numbers. They proved that in the shadows of the jungle, where technology and firepower mean less than skill and patience, the hunters can become the hunted. The Viet Cong feared the SAS more than any American unit, not because the Australians killed more enemies or won more battles, but because they shattered the fundamental assumption that made guerrilla warfare possible, the belief that the jungle belonged to them, that they were invisible, that they were safe. The SAS taught them they were wrong,